007.
What's happening, everybody? It's your man, Dame DNYDC. You know what time it is. It's Monday, another brand new episode of Two Mics Up. And we back again. And tonight, joining me on the other mic, a lot of times, I like to talk about, leadership and what leadership looks like, what it may sound like, and really how to encourage others to really dive in and connect, with that thing. Because we all have a different thing that we can all bring to the table, to lead in different ways, different styles, different manners. And hopefully tonight's guest is going to give us a little more insight, if you will, because this is right up her alley. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you all to, Karin Hurt. Karin, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
What do you like to do in your downtime when you have some time to yourself?
Well, at the moment, one of the things I have is a senior in high school.
Wow.
And right now, I'm in this mode of, oh my gosh, this kid needs all the things. We got to go visit the colleges. He's got auditions. He's got all these performances he's in now. So a lot of what I do right now is Sebastian. So that's fun. And I'm enjoying every minute of the last year here.
Right.
And I have an older son, and so I have grandbabies. So I love to be with them. And other than that, I really enjoy traveling. I also really enjoy long distance, anything, running, swimming, biking, all those things.
So just in that right there, ladies and gentlemen, you can tell. So, Karin has a very busy downtime. What was it that got you interested in that? Wanting to help evolve and create, or help others find their interconnect with leadership. How did you get involved and become interested?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I was at Verizon for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And so the first decade was all this kind of stuff: human resources, leadership development, organizational development, training. And then I went into call centers, and I led a bunch of really large call centers. Then I led a 2,200 person sales team. Then I led a 10,000 person customer service organization. So I've been leading for a while. Mm-hmm. But in my last role, I was working to transform what we called our strategic partnership channel, which was basically all the outsourced call centers that were taking Verizon's calls right as the iPhone was now coming up, because there was a minute there that Verizon wasn't even allowed to sell the iPhone. Right. So I got involved working with these other companies. Going in, I spent about 3 years flying center to center, looking at their operations, looking at the way they were leading, looking at culture. And I was really focused on helping them really improve the customer experience, and knowing the only way to do that was creating great culture and having great leadership at every level, from executive down. And so I found myself spending a lot of time thinking about, how do you lead really well and build great culture when you are in a low margin environment like these BPOs are, and you can't pull everybody off the phones and say, oh, let's have a meeting for an hour. You're coaching in short little nuts. You're recognizing in short little bits. Right. How do you do that well? And so I started writing a blog because I was thinking about and was watching and trying different things, what was working. And what I didn't expect was that the blog really blew up. It got an international following. I started getting asked, hey, will you be our keynote speaker? When are you going to write your book? Can you come do for our call center what you did for those call centers? I thought, wait, no, I have this executive job. I can't do that.
Right.
One of the VPs in one of these call center companies says, look, I am on the board of the International Customer Service Association. We need a keynote speaker. Will you come be our keynote speaker? I'm like, what am I going to talk about? He's like, this. You're going to talk about this.
Right.
All right. But I wasn't a professional speaker at this point. So I went and I gave this keynote speech. I get off the stage, And the guy who was coming up next to me, his name was Shep Hyken,
Okay.
says to me, "When are you leaving Verizon?" I said, did I say that from the stage? Because I was nervous, right?
Right, right.
He says, "No, you are clearly meant to do this for a living."
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
he handed me his card and he said, "I am the president of the National Speakers Association.
Mm-hmm.
When you're ready to leave, call me. I'll help you." So now, like, all right, I got this blog. I got people
Right.
telling me this. Like, the universe is just telling me I should do
Speaking
this
to you.
thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I really thought about it. I said, "You know what? I love it. I
Yeah.
love it."
Mm-hmm.
And so I gave Verizon 4 months notice
Hey.
and left a lot of money on the table. You know how that stuff
Yep.
goes,
Yep.
because I was leaving voluntarily.
Voluntarily. That's
And
right.
everybody's telling me, my boss, just like, "Nobody leaves a job like yours. You're crazy."
Mm.
And I thought, well, it's my life though.
Right.
And so I have not looked back.
I
It
love
is,
it.
it's been an interesting journey. I've been doing this now for 10 years. So now you
Wow.
add up the math, you realize I'm getting
Which
old, but I absolutely love it. And so we now work with leaders all over the world, which has
That's
been really,
awesome.
really fascinating. And
Awesome.
really, we're focused on very practical tools and techniques for human-centered
Mm-hmm.
leaders.
And that's what I love, because like I said, like I believe most of us have some type of passion or desire, and there's leadership comes in many different forms. What is the overall mission now that you've been doing this, right? Because there has to be a mission and vision behind Let's Grow Leaders. And I think that's important to share as well. So, when people are listening to this and they want to reach out, they really have a clear understanding of, if they want to work with you,
Yeah.
partner with you, whatever it may be, that they really understand what that real mission and vision behind Let's Grow Leaders is.
Yeah, I mean, we are all about making it really, really practical to be a better leader, to get better results and have better relationships. So, we focused on human-centered leaders. What does that mean? It means that you are getting results and you're
Mhm.
not being a jerk.
Mm,
And,
love it.
I think everybody gets that conceptually. Yeah, I want to get results and I don't want to have to be a jerk. And I don't
Right,
want to have to be a jerk to myself and be stressed out all the time.
right,
Right.
right.
Our first book was called Winning Well, Manager's Guide to Getting Results Without Losing Your Soul. And, there's a lot of that soul
There's
losing in the
That's
process.
right.
And I don't really mean from a religious perspective, but either showing up in a
Spiritual.
way that you can't sleep well at
That's
night,
right.
you know,
Mhm.
and so how do you do that? And I think everybody wants that. A lot of people want that.
Yeah.
But how do you do it in very practical ways? So how do you show up in a meeting and get the results and and enhance the relationships?
Right.
How do you have an accountability conversation
Mm.
that
Mm.
holds people accountable to the
Accountable.
results and folks shows up curious about what's really going on
Right.
and builds the relationship?
Right.
And then how do you establish your most important priorities? How do you teach
Mhm.
people to say no to things so you can say yes to something more important? So, we're focused on that. We're so focused on creating great culture, great culture.
Mhm.
Our most recent book is called Courageous Cultures.
Okay.
So how to build teams of micro innovators, problem solvers, and
Mm.
customer advocates, right? So we're really about, like, how do you tap into the best idea of every employee? So,
Uh,
the vision is practical, giving people practical tools. How we do it is in a variety of ways, from keynotes to training to books to blogs to, all that stuff.
right. And it's funny. I'm listening to that, right? Because what you're really talking about sounds like identifying tools for people, right?
Yeah.
And how do you, or how have you, is there ways that you can maybe talk about and share maybe how you've helped some people, identify uh, maybe something that they're missing that has helped them in their role
Yeah.
of advancing them, not only themselves and their teams successfully.
Yeah. So we have 6 concepts that we say can't lead without. I only talk about a couple of them because
Okay.
these are ones that universally we find make a difference, no matter whether you are the CEO or you are a frontline supervisor.
Okay.
Right. So one is we call focus on the MIT, which is
Mhm.
the most important thing. And
Okay.
ask any manager, do you have too much to do? I've never heard somebody say, "No, I'm good. We're totally
Right.
cool here, right? I got it. I go home
Right.
at 5, I'm done. It's great. Come back the next day, I have my coffee." No, everybody's overwhelmed all the time.
Right.
Why is that? Right. So helping people really identify what are the key things that are going to really change the game, really, have an extraordinary year. Not just, because a lot of times you'll get handed a scorecard and they'll have 27 things on it.
Right.
If you focus on 27 things, you are not going to be successful.
No, not at all.
So, if you get a scorecard that's filled with 27 things, say to your manager, what are the most important of these, if I've got to just knock something out of the park, what are those 3 things?
Right.
At a strategic level? Do you know that? And do you know how that's going to impact the bigger metrics of the organization? So know your MITs. And then do you have clear strategic initiatives underneath those most important things? With are you identified? And if you do those strategic initiatives well, is that really going to get you to solve those MITs?
To solve those, right.
And then under that, do you know the activities that you and your team need to do to make that happen? And then under that, what are the habits? What are the daily habits for success? And if you can align your team and everybody gets that, and you execute towards that, that is the most practical way for you to have a high performing team. So that's one of them. And then we focus on communicating consistently. That if something is strategically important, you don't want to just communicate it once or twice. You want to communicate it 5 times, 5 different ways. So if I tell you, imagine you are leading a call center, and you say, you know what, we don't have a good empathetic customer experience. This is our problem. So empathy, creating an empathetic customer experience is going to be one of our most important things. All right. Well, if you just go now, start talking to your people and say, you need to be more empathetic. They're like, I am empathetic. Do you know? So how do you break that down all the way down to the behavioral level? So say one of your behaviors is that on the first 40 seconds of the call, you're going to show up as a really curious, interesting expert. And then you break that down into what are the habits? Well, I'm going to use the customer's name. I'm going to have a, energetic interaction. I'm going to ask them something personal, right? You're going to break that down into habits that work. Now, you can communicate that once and think, well, people got it. I told them that they need to do that.
Have to reinforce that.
You got to reinforce it, right? So you do it in your town hall meeting, then you do it in your one-on-ones, and then you have a recognition program around it. And then you do it as you traveling around, right? And then one way you mix it up in some creative way. Maybe you put your backdrop and you put the key habits on there.
Right.
Yeah. So those are a couple of examples of making things pretty practical.
And see, these are all tools that sometimes, I think, for some of the more seasoned leaders, they get lost in the shuffle. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We're going to step away for a quick commercial break. I want to thank our sponsors here at Two Mics Up for their continuous support, because without them, we wouldn't be here bringing our platform and sharing Karin's story with you all here today. So we'll be right back after the break. What's happening,
you have a lot of great sponsors.
Hey, thank you so much. Hey,
that's
look,
awesome.
Without them, we wouldn't be able to bring, these great conversations, and, proud to have them supporting us. And I'm really humbled to have you here today, because you and Let's Grow Leaders, you are doing great things as well, in the community that's really positively impacting so many others. And I just wanted to change lanes, because talk about transformation, that's big here, for me and for us here on the show. And, Let's Grow Leaders really has a lot of different processes and services that I'm pretty sure you probably just only touched or tipped the scale with. But I want to, be able to let you just really go ahead and dive in for a couple of minutes and just walk our audience through what they can find if they were a new client, a new customer, what that process might look like if they were to sit down with you or someone with Let's Grow Leaders.
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is, what does success look like for you?
Mm.
I always say, if somebody calls and says, "Hey, I want you to transform our culture." Okay. Because sometimes we get calls like that. And in fact, we're doing, we have a multi-year project with Nestle, where
awesome.
we are really working to help them build a care and dare culture in Nestle, Switzerland, where we've worked from everything from helping them take the values and putting them into behaviors, right? And from those behaviors, how do you do the leadership training all the way through.
Right.
But it starts with, no whether if you're a big guy like Nestle or you're a team leader, well, what do you want to be different as a result of working with us? And I always say, what are you going to say? Oh my gosh, that was such a good investment of time and money. Things are better now. And if you can't define that, you might not be ready, right? Because you don't want to. We always say you don't want to just pick a check the box training. And I can tell when I get the call. It's from an administrative assistant. They're like, "Yeah, my boss said to go find a leadership trainer."
Right.
That's
check the box.
Go
we have to do internally.
some online learning and just
yeah.
But if you really want transformation, then know what success looks like. So that's where I would start. And then I would say, from there, like, what are the key behaviors that you really want to be different? So say, people say, well, because they read our book, Courageous Cultures, and they'll say, I want to create more psychological safety on my team. Okay. Well, that's good. It's really good. What does that look like? Yeah. Right. What does that look like? and so we say, okay, so there's going to be 4 steps that we're going to really focus on. One is what we call navigating the narrative. And this is getting comfortable with, how comfortable are you with speaking up? Right. Because if you go to your team and you say, any idea, bring everything, it's all good. And they're watching you and you're not advocating. You're not having a tough conversation with your peer, right? They're like, no, it's not safe here.
Not safe here. Yeah,
right? True. So that's the first part. Then we say creating clarity is the next step. And this is clarity about 2 things. One, clarity that you really do want people's ideas, and clarity about what a good idea would accomplish. So, if you say to me, hey, I really want some feedback about my leadership. Right. One of the things I would say to you is, don't go to your team and just say, hey, you have any ideas that would make me a better leader? Instead say, what is one way that I could improve, and then pick something that you really want feedback on. Improve communication on our team. Or what's one way I could build better trust? By saying it's just one and being very specific, you are going to make it easier for people to speak up, right? And then so you're navigating the narrative, you're creating clarity, then we're doing what we call cultivating curiosity. And we teach a lot of very practical tools for doing that. So one is teach people our idea model. So if somebody has an idea so they're bringing you ideas, say, when you bring me an idea, bring it to me in this way. Why is this idea interesting? Meaning, why is it strategically aligned with our MIT, the things that we're focused on? D, is it doable? Have you thought through how we'd actually pull this off? Because, if it's going to take a change in the president of the United States to make this happen, well, that's probably not the idea we should be focused on right now. Let's just wait and see how that plays out.
Right.
E, engaging. Who else? This is where you're teaching people about the stakeholders and who else do you need to involve in this idea? Do they need to talk to HR? Do they need to talk to finance? And then A, actions, a couple of recommended next steps. So, so we have a whole series of tools around that. And then finally, respond with regard. How do you respond to an idea, even if it's idea you can't possibly use? Yeah, right? In a way that's going to not demoralize people to continue to speak up. Right. And so, we teach some tools and techniques around that. How do you respond with gratitude, thanking them, not necessarily for the idea, but for their active contributing and caring.
Right.
information, what's going to happen with the idea or what's not going to happen with the idea, and then an
Right.
invitation to continue to
Hmm.
contribute. So that's just an example. If you were to say, hey, so basically I'd want to know what you want to accomplish. And then I would pull
All
from
of that
all of our
together.
different curriculum and custom design a program that would give you the outcomes that you're looking for.
That's awesome. I mean, and that's great. Not because I asked that because so many times, so many of us, whether new business owners, small, mid-size, we don't know where to go or what it is that we're looking for when we're trying to implement,
Yeah.
some type of positive change or leadership change or influx,
Yeah.
or energize in our businesses. And that to me was the perfect synopsis, because you sound like you can basically curate, that based on the answers that you get back from the client. But the client,
Right.
Meaning us, those watching and listening,
Right.
you need to have your A game together and have your ducks in a row so that when you talk to Karin, you actually know what it is that you want and that what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important part, because a lot of times, like I said, a lot of times you'll hear, hey, just go ahead, get a leadership trainer. Go ahead.
Right. Or we just need a keynote speaker.
Right. Yeah. Just get somebody. Right. And it doesn't serve the purpose sometimes. And then you wonder why, your staff and team are looking at it like, they're in the crowd, like, why are we here again? Like, what is this for? So that was the perfect, scenario. So thank you for doing that. And if you can, I'm curious to know, just on the flip side, because even though we've kind of come out on the other side of the pandemic low key is back, it in our midst again.
Don't
But
say that.
well, this is what they say. I'm not saying it because I don't want to see it, but this is what the people out here saying in the news. But with that, having to come through that, like, how were you able to pivot and shift, during that time? Like, was it a hiccup or a blip for you during the pandemic, or did you really have to pivot and shift and kind of transform and change some things?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So, because as you can imagine, most of the work that we were doing prior to the pandemic was all live in-person work.
Mm-hmm.
And we were launching a book. We had just launched a book, which of course I had all these conferences lined up, and we're going to sell these books 500 at a time. And everybody within 2 weeks canceled all of that.
Wow.
And so there was a moment there I thought, this is really bad.
Wow.
And I remember my dad saying, he like got on the family Zoom or whatever. He's like, well, the people that are most trouble with this are going to be Karin and David. Right. And, so my husband is my business partner. So we don't have work, nobody at work around here. Right. And, but I am so grateful for this.
Okay.
For, a year prior, there was a woman, her name was Michelle Braden. She worked for a company called TELUS, and they're an international global company. Right. So she called me and said, Karin, I love your book, Winning Well. I have all these international offices. I can't possibly fly you all over the world. Like, I just can't, right? It's too expensive. What can you do?
Right.
And because of that, we had built international live online programs of cohorts of people with all the tools and techniques, all the technology, had figured out all the lighting, we had figured it all out.
Wow.
And so I'm like, well, we know how to do it if people will buy it. And so then we went to our largest client, the one I was most worried about. It was a 6-figure contract that I was worried was going to be canceled because it was all in person.
Right.
And we said, we know how to do it. What do you think? And they're like, well, that's fantastic. And it's cheaper for us because we don't have to fly all the people. Not only is it safer because we could delay and do the in-person later, but in the long run, it's going to be cheaper and we can do it right now. So yes, let's do it. So we immediately took that big contract and flipped it. And so then I was able to say to others, look, I did it before. We're doing it now. And people are like, yeah, let's do it. And we had our best revenue year ever.
Wow.
So, it didn't go all that well for all of my keynote friends. I think the difference, is we do keynotes, of course, And if it had just been keynotes, I would have been in trouble.
Yeah,
But we do rich content, long-term programs. And
Right.
that was what was able to pivot. Yeah, we did some virtual keynotes, but a keynote is not the same virtually,
Right.
So
Just not.
yeah.
It's just not. Well, I love that to hear that success, and really help pivot and change and keep you afloat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. Keep you afloat, keep the lights on, and
Yeah.
keep the marriage and everything safe and calm, right?
Right.
We're coming to the end of this amazing conversation, Karin, and I would be remiss to not allow you to take some time. First of all, let us know, is there anything else that maybe we can expect from you or Let's Grow leaders in the near future that you want to share real quick? And while you're at it, please go ahead and share your social media information. I want to make sure that we have our audience go out and support, follow, like, subscribe, inquire, and do whatever they can to support you and Let's Grow leaders.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Well, first of all, I am very excited because we do have a new book coming out next year.
All right.
And we did some extensive research called the World Workplace Conflict and Collaboration Survey. And this book is coming out with HarperCollins, and it's called Powerful Phrases for Dealing with Workplace Conflict, What to Say Next to Distress the Workday, Build Collaboration, and Calm Difficult Customers. And is, again, what we're known for, really, really practical tools. So there's going to be a media ruckus starting soon about all of the research and some of the tools. And we're really excited for that launch. And we're booking keynotes now for next spring to come deal with that. So that's the first thing. And our website, Let's Grow Leaders, we are constantly, we write articles every single week, lots and lots of free content with very practical tools. So if people are looking for even just a way to get something to use with their team immediately, lots of free stuff there. And of course, you can learn about our programs through that as well. And on LinkedIn, I am Karin with an I, Karin Hurt, Hurt, and would love to connect there as well.
So I will make sure that we add that to the show notes so that, our audience can go out if they want to reach out to Karin directly. We'll make sure we put that in the show notes. Karin, it's been a total blast and a pleasure to sit here and speak with you today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule and sitting here and educating us and helping us transform. And hopefully some of our audience will go out and become new leaders too.
Well, I love it. It's been absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much. I love the important work you're doing here to build courageous leadership and all of this. This is fantastic.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Karin. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. It's another wrap. Time to go. 2 mics up. I'm your man, Dave DNYDC. 2 mics up. Season 5 continues Monday nights, 8 p.m. Mogul Global TV Network, the #1 network in positive programming. Man, this network is really growing, y'all. We're reaching over 1 million homes now. So, doing great things. So thank you for your support. Make sure, like you always do, you can follow 2 Mics Up online, IG, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at 2 Mics Up. And if you feel like you want to follow me, you can see the information right there. I'm your man, Dame DNYDC, across all social media. And like we do at this time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to ask you to do a couple of things for me. Stay safe, stay blessed. Mics out.